and I have the pleasure of serving as chair of busy schedules. We are so blessed in Chattanooga, our own culture of civic engagement, where residents, elected officials, and community leaders recognize and value the importance in decision-making. We all feel a deep love for this an exciting sense of optimism about her future. And tonight, we will of the progress that is being made toward that bright future. Before we get started, I want to take a brief moment to recognize some of the elected officials in attendance. When I call your name, would you please stand? It's Jenny Kelley, I know she's here, of the Chattanooga City Council, Chattanooga Administrative Hearing Officer Mike Mallon, Mayor of Chattanooga, Ron Littlefield. If you don't know, I love my council members. Councilwoman Marvine, no. We have City Judge Sherry Patey. Wisest council members I know, Councilman Ken Smith. Okay. And Council, yes, we know that. We have County Commissioner. I'm almost finished, y'all, I promise. County School Board member Jill Black, who represents District 11, my school board representative. Here on time. All right. Appreciate you all coming and thank you for your service. I know that in accounting.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the one nation.
Mayor Kelley's One Chattanooga plan outlines a bold vision for a city that includes everyone and its prosperity. Since introducing One Chattanooga a little more than a year ago, the Kelley administration has been working hard to bring it to life.
The values, strategic initiatives, and goals laid out in the One Chattanooga plan provide direction and purpose for the work we do in City Hall every day, helping to prioritize action and allocate resources effectively.
To give you a sense of what this looks like day in and day out, we invite you to join us in directing your attention to the screen behind us.
I shared my plan for building One Chattanooga, a vision we set together with this community to close the persistent gaps in opportunity, education, and public health that stand in the way of Chattanooga reaching its full potential.
Infrastructure is so important because we have to get the basics right in our community if we want folks to trust us to do the big things right.
Our team comes in every day just fired up to be the shapers of this community we're all fortunate to call home.
Whenever we grow our local economy, we create new opportunities for people. So every new business that starts, every expansion of an existing business that's creating new jobs means more opportunities for Chattanoogans to be able to support their families and be able to reinvest in our local economy.
We're seeing a substantial growth in the city of Chattanooga, and that means people are coming in with jobs looking for places to live. And the only way that we're going to prosper from the investment in our city is if our working folks can access housing that is affordable to them.
So part of supporting our workforce ecosystem partners is actually creating talent development hubs in the communities that we serve. So an example is our South Chattanooga Labor and Career Fair. We feel that if we can support our communities at the neighborhood level and work with all partners in those neighborhoods, that we can get the results that we need to make sure that all Chattanoogans have access to the opportunities that are available to them.
The City of Chattanooga has supported Black-owned businesses through a number of ways. One of those ways has been through the Minority Business Owners Roundtables. Every fourth Monday, we meet various places in the community, and we have grown this community of Black entrepreneurs. We have had had 531 businesses to come through those roundtables.
OSH, the Office of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, contributed to housing 572 individuals this year. This year's point-in-time count was nearly 800. That's a 40% reduction over last year. We're excited about the partnership with Branch Technology and always looking for innovative ways to address homelessness here in the city.
3 big wins from this past year. 1, paving 63 lane miles. 2, filling 40,000 potholes. 3, securing the RAISE grant, $25 million to replace Wilcox Bridge. Is a huge win for our community.
Also very excited about the work that we've done along South Broad. We hope to see over $500 million worth of investment there in the form of new entertainment spaces, new green space, new office space, and new employers that will be anchored by a new baseball stadium. It's going to be tremendous.
We launched another unique partnership with Hamilton County Schools, none other than the One Chattanooga Institute for Early Care and Learning. This amazing new Future Ready Institute that will be held at Tyner Academy will allow students to not only graduate with their Hamilton County High School diploma, but also with a Child Development Associate certification, which allows them to work in early learning settings right out of high school, making a livable wage.
A lot of the preventative things that we are doing are for young people and young adults to keep them in spaces and places, not only that are safe, but provide mentors that can change their narrative like never before. Another part of what we are in the process of doing under the roadmap is intervention. We understand that we're looking at this as a public health crisis, and that is not a gang issue, but an economic issue. So we're providing opportunities for people to have the skills needed to be successful in an ever-changing climate right here in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
From this time last year, our property crime has decreased 20%, and a lot of that had to do with an initiative that we started last year called Project Safe. And that included education with the public, as well as we looked at a way to streamline our lists, so we knew if we apprehended some of the active warrants that we had on our list, that would be a big driver in reducing our crime. And then lastly, we had an opportunity to make sure that we had our officers being more visible in the neighborhoods, doing business checks and things like that, and that was a big driver for reducing that crime. Auto thefts are down 30%. And our thefts from autos are down 39%. And those are successes that, are just unheard of. Those are phenomenal successes.
Crisis co-response is an evolution of improving and adapting policing to the needs of the community.
We approach individuals in the community who are going through mental health crises in an innovative and multi-layered way by providing that crisis intervention, by connecting them to resources and providing that wraparound support that they need.
And I believe in 2022, we relieved 500 units for that year. That's putting that value back into where a police officer is ready and available for the next call.
The Office of Community Health has been focused on decreasing the health disparities in the city of Chattanooga. And so we have been doing activities in the communities where we have had health fairs. We have seen, the research has shown, when you reach out into the community and you show people that they're valued, they do better, they're more successful, and that's what our goal is.
I think some of the most exciting things that have happened this year has been, the reawakening of our community engagement, volunteerism, our outreach through social media and other platforms. Another big project, the biggest one, of course, is the authorship of the Parks and Outdoors Plan, which sounds completely lame. I know it's planning, it sounds boring, it's horrible, but that's where things like this all happen. And 20 years ago, this was built. Well, we're taking the first steps to say, what's the next 20 years for Chattanooga? And the interesting thing about that, it's going to be everywhere across our city as we spread these great parks into every little neighborhood and every little crook and every little cranny to touch them, serve them, and then deliver those services in a way that's authentic for those communities that call them home. That's the special sauce of what makes this community great.
I am tremendously proud of the work that we're all doing every day to make this city a place that all Chattanoogans deserve. The state of our city is strong.
I am one Chattanooga.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am one Chattanooga.
One Chattanooga.
One Chattanooga.
And I am one Chattanooga.
One Chattanooga.
One Chattanooga.
One Chattanooga.
And I'm honored to be one Chattanooga.
We are one Chattanooga.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage award-winning actor, vocalist, and Local 3 evening news anchor, Greg Glover.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to State of the City 2023. This year, Mayor Kelley wanted to forego the more formal address or speech in favor of a more casual conversation, and I have to say I'm honored to be asked to help facilitate our discussion tonight. Before we jump in, I believe it's important to tell you that we've not rehearsed or been dictated to questions or answers that you'll hear this evening. The Local 3 staff met with the mayor and his staff to talk in generalities about some topics that we might want to talk about in general. Along those lines, the mayor's office may be throwing up some charts, some maps, some graphs throughout the course of our conversation this evening to make understanding some of his answers a little more forthcoming. We'll talk about what's been done in the past, what's been going over the last 2.5 years of this term, our current situation, and what we can expect looking forward into the future. So let's get started. Tim Kelley is a Columbia grad with an MBA from Emory. In a former life, he took over his family's car dealership business and expanded it. You may know him from the boards of numerous nonprofits or as a co-founder of the Chattanooga Football Club. You may even know him as an adjunct professor from UTC. But tonight we call him Mr. Mayor. Please welcome the 66th mayor of the great city of Chattanooga, Tim Kelley.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to the staff that put that together. That was actually the first time I've seen that video. And it got a little choked up. It was something else. And again, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I can't see you, but I know you're out there theoretically. And I want to thank my family too for being here. Jenny's out there and the family. And excellent. Welcome and thanks for spending your time with us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We ended that great video with the whole phrase, one Chattanooga.
Yeah.
It's a slogan you unveiled soon after your being sworn in. It's been a prominent feature of many of the projects that you've taken on. You've said it's to address gaps in opportunity, education, public health, and other areas, and a way to help Chattanooga reach its full potential. Now, for those of us who don't work in your office, that may sound a bit esoteric.
Yes.
So is there a Cliff's Notes version of maybe the genesis of one Chattanooga and what it means to us, the residents of the city?
Yeah, and again, yes, I have been accused of being a little academic at times. I was probably most at home when I was an adjunct professor at UTC, and it is important for us to break it down for people. It was frankly, Greg, it was a culmination of all the years that I had spent in nonprofit service here, which really kind of, led me to being the chairman of the Community Foundation at a time when I think more so than ever in my lifetime in Chattanooga over the last, 30 years, everybody was focused on the idea that economic mobility was really the thing holding Chattanooga back. I think we have a slide perhaps on the disparities here between the black and white community economically in terms of outcomes. They're shocking. They're terrible. They still are, right? And this was something that I think for obvious reasons, right? Politicians don't like talking about because it tends to make people uncomfortable. I've said many times, I don't have further political ambitions, and the truth really will set you free, right? I mean, we need to get comfortable talking about this stuff because until we hit it head on, we can't fix it. It starts with education, but that was the plan. The genesis of the plan was my blueprint, my thesis for how we find our way to that spot of really being the best city in the United States. And I fervently believe that Chattanooga has the potential to do that. But we can't do that until we address some of these really pressing problems. And the good news is we have the talent and the raw materials and the determination to do just that.
And you're taking some big swings in the near future as far as the economy goes. The South Broad project, that will include the Lookout Stadium. You've got the Bend and also One West Side.
Yes.
Those are huge deals. Do you consider those gambles, or do you consider them sure things, or somewhere in the middle?
Well, sir, look, there's no such thing as a sure thing. I think one of the things, the first book we read as a cabinet that I forced upon my staff was a book by a guy at Harvard named Mitch Weiss called We the Possibility, and it was about public entrepreneurship. And it was about the idea that government has got to get outside its comfort zone and start taking a few risks, right? And to prove to the American public, to democracies in general, that we can still solve people's biggest problems. Democracy as a form of government is under threat. And so we've got to, now, that doesn't mean we're going to be riverboat gamblers, but in the case of both of these projects, these are large brownfields that we will use tax increment financing to propel infrastructure investment in. And that really is about as close to alchemy as you can get from a financial perspective, because the investment needed to make the improvements comes out of the private investment coming in to build all of the improvements, which wouldn't happen if we hadn't offered the tip. So
and that tax increment financing, can you take just a moment to explain how that all works to benefit the other?
Yeah. So again, the key is the increment. So you take an area like the Bend, which is all based on property tax, right? That was generating next to no property tax because the property wasn't worth anything. It was a big contaminated brownfield. And what it does is take for a period of time, not forever, but for a period of time, takes the increment created by the rise in property tax values, created by the investment, and diverts that would have gone to the general fund, and diverts that towards, it's not up there, but we really don't have that slide in here, but diverts it towards key infrastructure investments. In this case, in the Bend and the West Side, that private investment will create a down payment for West Side of Alls to completely transform that College Hill Courts area that hasn't really had any new investment since, well, it had a little bit back in the 90s, but not significantly since the 1940s when it was built. And it will create a ton of new housing units, mixed-use housing, while not displacing a single resident. Chattanooga Housing Authority is committed to that. So again, that wouldn't happen without tax increment financing. It will also create an entire new neighborhood for the city of Chattanooga. It will extend Main Street all the way to the river. It's a fantastic project.
And you've said that deal has helped secure what you call the holy grail of grant money to get some of this stuff done.
That's right. It's called a Choice Neighborhoods Grant. Chattanooga's never gotten a Choice Neighborhoods Grant. And that TIF increment will act as a down payment to trigger another, I want to say $50 million in federal investment directly from the federal government in the form of this Choice Neighborhoods Grant, which then triggers about another $90 million in low-income tax credits to build a brand new neighborhood. And so again, this is thinking big. There've been some talk lately that we're not thinking big enough. We're thinking plenty big. This is big thinking.
A big thought a few years ago was the arrival of Volkswagen, and that kind of revived the Dynamo of Dixie moniker for the area. I've heard you say that with our new technology we're investing in now, we may be referred to as the buckle of the battery belt. Well, is that true? I was going to ask, the unemployment numbers went up slightly in June. Is that concerning with all this new technology coming around?
Well, I did not coin the buckle of the battery belt phrase. I think that's true. If you look at a map, I do think the economic opportunity around this new green economy, whatever you think of it otherwise, is frankly incredible. And we are squarely in the middle of it. And we have an incredible, it is most of our economic upside opportunity. Our unemployment rate a couple of months ago was the lowest it's ever been in the history since they've been keeping records in Chattanooga. And I would say I'm proud of that, but honestly, I mean, nobody's ever happy because people also couldn't find workers. So look, the Federal Reserve is doing its job to try to get the dragon of inflation back in the cage, and so you're going to see unemployment tick up a little bit. And I don't think that's a bad thing because I think those people will quickly find reemployment elsewhere. There's still a lot of tightness in other areas of the labor market, so that as a sort of an armchair economist, that doesn't worry me.
This new economy that you're building, is there room in it for people who aren't in tech fields and who may not have college degrees?
Well, it's funny you should ask, Greg, and I promise you we did not talk about this ahead of time, but we've been recently accepted into one of only 16 cities into a program that the Department of Labor is running with the National League of Cities called the Good Jobs, Great Cities Initiative. And it's all about workforce development. And the longer I'm in the mayor's office, 2.5 years, it hit me at this launch meeting we were in Washington that there are really two types of mayors in the United States. The mayors that understand that workforce development is the most important thing they do, and the mayors that will soon understand that workforce development is the most important thing they do. And I'm dead serious about that, because with all this economic development, and we work very hard. I mean, again, I did 2 tours at the Chamber of Commerce, and Charles Wood, I talked to him, seems like every other day, which is not a burden. If you're out there, Charles, it's all fine. But if that works, and we hope it does work, and we don't address workforce development and the disparities that we have, we could make inequality worse. So yes, and I'm fortunate to have a counterpart in County Mayor Wamp who is equally passionate about education and workforce development, and so we are working hard. And Carrie Randolph at Chattanooga 2.0 is a huge ally and a huge asset, but we've got to really re-engineer the way we think about that from cradle to career, which is what we are doing. And so to answer your question, we have to make sure that we have all those pathways. Again, one of the early things we did in the administration was create the Career Construction Academy, which the city historically probably wouldn't have invested in something like that. We invested $2 million in that, and it's full, and hopefully we'll be expanding soon to create people who can make really great money coming straight out of there in much needed construction jobs. So we have to have a diverse workforce that addresses each segment of the economy, and we've got to be able to train folks to do that.
And that workforce development includes your emphasis on black economy and on your street teams and things like that as well?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, again, our strategy is we're pushing it down into community centers. We're working through a lot of non-traditional pathways to focus on our more disadvantaged neighborhoods. But again, it's about everybody. It's about the entire workforce. But Quentin Lawrence, who leads that effort, is God bless him. I hope he's eating his Wheaties, and I know he is. And where we are, again, it is in many respects the most important thing we do in the mayor's office is to lead the charge on workforce development. Again, for everybody in Chattanooga.
Along those same lines, Forbes says Tennessee's low cost of living, low taxes, expanding job market, and natural beauty make us the 6th most popular state for people looking to relocate to. A recent report from the Nashville Chamber showed nearly 100 people per day moving into the Music City. Talk about growth. What do we want? What are we prepared for? And who is Chattanooga looking for?
Man, yeah, that's a great one, because it is another thing my staff's probably tired of me saying is that this is a Goldilocks problem, right? It really is. It's a balancing act, because as my wonderful Parks and Outdoors Director Scott Martin recently said, and I've shamelessly stole the line, we don't want to be the biggest city in Tennessee. We want to be the best city in Tennessee, and that requires thoughtful planning. So again, we noticed during the pandemic, as I was coming into office, that we had quite a few people that had moved in for our super fast internet and our great quality of life. That's a wonderful thing. But lo and behold, that led to an affordable housing issue that we are, hard at work addressing as well. Look, we want to be able to accommodate as many people want to be here, but at the same time, good brands have edges, right? And I think we're not going to try to be all things to all people. I think at the same time, we have to make sure that we take care of our legacy residents first before we start worrying about trying to roll out the red carpet to the world at large.
You mentioned housing. Supply is still kind of in a deficit in town. The people that you're trying to attract, can they afford to live here once they get here?
Well, again, my thumbnail gut feel is that the housing market is kind of topping back off again. That's what the Fed is trying to do, is pour water on this fire. And frankly, I think we had a lot of speculative investment here. I know we did. From, again, the financialization of housing is a thing that's not just affecting Chattanooga. You had a lot of private equity companies buying up housing just as a place while money was cheap to park cash, and that drove housing prices up. Our short-term vacation rental regulations, or the lack thereof, definitely hurt housing prices, because if you look at what you can, and again, look, I've had places on Airbnb. I'm an Airbnb user. I'm not an Airbnb hater by any stretch of the imagination, but if you take a typical kind of bungalow house in Chattanooga that you would probably rent for $1,500 a month, maybe $2,000 a month, and you charge $200 a night for it, I'll let you do the math in your own heads. You're going to pay a lot more money for that house if you can put it on Airbnb. So, and it will price a lot of people out of the market. We passed new regulations. They're much more meaningful. They have much more meaningful fines. There is a place for them in the same zones where hotels would be, in commercial zones. But I think that will help. And of course, we will also soon be adding a lot of supply. I think we have 600 odd units that Nicole Heyman, our Chief Housing Officer, is hard at work getting online, and we have a very robust plan, including been seeded by $20 million of last year's budget to create a toolbox to subsidize the further creation of more affordable housing in Chattanooga. So the cavalry is on the way. I mean, if you just look at what we've got planned in the south side and the west side, there are a ton of new units in there generally. And again, any housing supply, as it increases, is going to decrease price, just supply and demand being what they are. But we are going to take a very, very focused approach to creating specifically long-term affordable housing as well.
And there is room for new development. As we grow, is there room for development and new builds?
Oh, there is room. And again, those of you that were here, the real policy wonks out there that were actually bothered to come last year will remember that Ben McAdams was here, and we talked a lot about our public asset workshop, and we got those results back. I think we've got a map of it maybe, but we've got a number. I want to say 70 sites that we have now available for affordable housing, and we reconstituted our land bank authority so that we can take units and put them back online for people to create affordable housing. So again, we're hard at work in a number of different areas. I'm not going to look for it. To create more.
You mentioned affordable housing. Let's talk about homelessness. Tuesday night we had a homeless encampment near the bridge at Market Street in Alton Park go up in flames there. It's one of many known homeless encampments around town. Are you worried about the safety of such places, and are they legal?
Well, this is the most wicked problem that mayors face. I mean, and there's kind of when I say wicked problem, I mean it in the sense that it just, not only does it not have an obvious solution, but it's sometimes in trying to solve it, you make it worse. We've got a lot of new faces in Chattanooga, and we've had a great deal of success. We've housed, and Casey Tinker and his team, shout out to those guys, have done a fantastic job housing, I think, 800 people year to date, which is almost a 67% increase over last year, which was a huge increase. But more people keep coming, and frankly, we don't know whether they're being evicted from current housing, or if they're coming here from elsewhere, which we are currently looking into. Is there a pattern there? But we've also got an amazing eviction prevention initiative, or this issue would be worse. We prevented, by the last count, 237 residents from being evicted from their homes with the help of the Community Foundation by being there at court to help folks being evicted to work things out with their landlord, or we would have a bigger issue. The public safety aspect is, look, it's a huge aspect. And again, kudos to our police department, who never asked for this problem, but have to deal with it on a daily basis and deal with it in an incredibly professional way. I will say, look, there's a lot of comorbidity with mental health, which you can understand if you've been on the street for any period of time. And the co-response unit that we stood up last year has been really, really helpful in this regard. We've been able to, divert a lot of folks to get help that they need rather than just sending them to jail or sending them to the hospital. But in the meantime, right, this is city government. We are the problem solvers of last resort. And police and fire have been doing a yeoman's job dealing with these issues, and they will continue to, and never the first complaint, I might add.
You've mentioned in the past a plan to turn the old airport into supportive housing.
Yes.
Talk to some business owners out on that Lee Highway corridor where there's a bit of a problem. They worry about safety and security for their workers, and also some people who maybe live around the Silverdale School. They worry about not only their property values, but also trespassing laws and trying to protect their property. How do you, in your administration, how do you walk the fine line between supporting those who may be without a home and also protecting and serving the residents there?
Communication is key, and we've met, and we had a very contentious series of meetings, including one out there in Silverdale last year, and have had meetings since then to discuss these issues. And listen, I understand. I would just say we are committed to making sure that solution is actually an improvement over the status quo, because the motel that was there before, and the one next to it, I might add, which has since been closed, was full of drugs and prostitution, and that was the source of the problem. Permanent supportive housing is not that. It is proctored, it's safe, it's secure, it's not for people who just wander up, it's not a hostel, and it pairs people who are persistently mentally ill, usually, with the resources they need to stay housed. And to get better and to get up and out. So I understand the concern. We've done a tremendous amount of research on this, and there are many successful models from around the country. We're talking to the leading providers in that regard. And look, we're committed to making sure that it is that it's an improvement over the status quo, not going backwards.
And what's the status report on that particular facility? Is it coming along?
It is coming along. Everything in government takes longer than you hope it would, but we had to replat the land and check, cross some T's and dot some I's before we could get the motel to the provider that's going to remodel it and then use it. And so that's taken a little longer than we want, but it's moving. Not quickly, but it is moving.
Well, you hired a new police chief about 1.5 years ago, and she may be here, so I hate to put you on the spot.
No, that's all right.
How would you rate Chief Celeste Murphy's performance so far? Chief, you may want to step out for just a second. No?
Listen, I love her, and she's done a fantastic job. She's brought, again, a completely new perspective to the department. That I think has been extremely helpful and at times controversial. But look, I'm new at my job, she's new at hers. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at the crime stats, we are absolutely moving in the right direction. Unfortunately, homicides are slightly up over last year, but everything else is moving in the other direction, particularly property crime. Again, some of the really initiatives, some of the innovative initiatives that we're embarking on that people haven't even really seen regarding gun violence interruption and so on have yet to take effect. But the numbers are moving in the right direction. And again, I hear a lot from people who sort of say, "Oh, Chattanooga's Memphis or New Orleans or even Birmingham," and our numbers are not even in the ballpark with those cities. Chattanooga's a safe city. Look, one homicide is too many, but I think our stats per 100,000 is maybe 14, And look, we're going to work hard to drive it to zero. I think the really extraordinary statistic, and which Chief Murphy should be and is, I think, quite proud of, is that our closure rate on homicides is nearly 90%, and the national average is 50. And if there's one thing that criminologists and people who understand, this sort of thing will tell you, the best way to prevent crime is to not let people get away with it. And that is a truly extraordinary statistic, and it's not a blip. I mean, that's been the case now, really, since she came into office.
People read those. And while we've paused here for a second, how about a round of applause for those homicide detectives that work long hours to make that work? Mayor, let me press you on the statistics just briefly here that people can read charts and graphs just any way they want to. You can make it say just about what you want to.
Yes.
Take the people at Wallet Hub.
Yep.
Wallet Hub calls Chattanooga the second worst run city of the country with safety as one of their metrics. They say relatively high violent and property crimes. Explain your take just a little deeper, if you would, and also how when you're talking per capita incidents, how it's compared against bigger cities.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Wallet Hub study is just BS. I mean, we broke it. Yeah, I mean, it is. You'll see more from us about this, because this happened last year, and it was a little bit like getting run over by an ice cream truck and going, what just happened? That was stupid. And then it was around the corner and gone, and we thought, okay, well, it was, we're just gonna, I mean, look, I did challenge city government to say, let's look at this, and we need to take this sort of stuff seriously. I mean, I don't want to be dismissive about it if it's real. And then lo and behold, here comes the ice cream truck again this year, and wham, same thing. So we really, Kevin Roig and his team really broke it down, and it's just wrong. I mean, it's just flatly wrong in so many areas. For one thing, if you break it down on its face, they've got our city budget pegged at $2.2 billion a year, and it's $375 million, give or take. I mean, I don't even. They're just wrong. It's just wrong. The public safety, apparently, the numbers come from some. They won't tell us where they come from, but they will say there's some website with a sample size of like 30 people where they ask them how safe they felt when they visited a city. I mean, one of the ratings has to do with our bond rating, and they look at your Moody's rating. Well, Moody's is like the third most popular rating agency. We have a Fitch rating and a Standard & Poor's rating, and it's AAA, which, by the way, is better than the U.S. government's currently. And we got a zero in that category because we didn't have a Moody's rating. And they didn't, again, this is not a serious news organization. It's a company that sells credit ratings, and they are literally trying to produce, I mean, my current theory is the most controversial content they can to make people mad, so they click on it and, sell the ad for My Pillow or whatever it is, and then, then on you go, right? But we are, again, I hate that we're having to spend city resources to do it, but I do think it's important that we refute these things, because somebody needs to tell these people that are moving in here at such a rapid rate, go away, you've been fooled. No, I mean, look, we've got a lot to be proud of as Chattanoogaans, and so we are going to break that down and more meaningfully refute it, because I do hear about it a lot, and it bugs the hell out of me. So.
While we have you fired up, let's talk about let's talk about the issue that got you on the radar of a lot of voters back when we saw it even in the video presentation. Let's talk about potholes.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do that.
How's that going?
Well, it's going really well, but I don't think it feels like it's going well to a lot of people. And I know we've got a slide on this one, because I bugged staff about needing to devise a slide on this one. And there it is, folks. The fact of the matter is, and apologies to any former mayors in the audience, but there it is. I mean, we did not invest enough in roads and road repair for a long time. And so, again, we tripled the paving budget. And last year, this year, next year, we will continue to do that. If we find some money in the sofa cushions, not all of it, but we will scrape excess to paving because we are on the road back to good road conditions. You can see we just barely turned the corner, but again, we need to kind of, and again, inflation was not our friend. That $10 million this year did not go nearly as far as it went last year, so we are going to have to, find some more money to put towards it. Now again, we paved 40,000 potholes, 40,000 potholes. And as you saw Ryan Ewalt say, maybe 60-something lane miles of roads. I will say another one this is way in the weeds, folks. You're going to learn something tonight, because I guarantee you, most of you didn't know this. We changed the policy on sewer laterals. Does anybody even know what a sewer lateral is? Show of hands. So that residents, if most of the time, are not responsible for sewer laterals. If a sewer lateral has to be repaired in front of your house, we will come and fix it. Public Works will do that. That saved taxpayers last year about $430,000. Yeah, and it will, a lot of times when you go over it, I know if you go down Hickson Pike, you go through what feels like, a lot of bumps. Those are not potholes, folks. Those are sewer laterals that have been badly repaired. Because if you leave it to a resident, I don't know about you, but I'm going to find the cheapest guy I can to fill it in. And now that the city is responsible for them, those will be repaired better. So look, I mean, we're dead serious about responsive and effective government. And as Ryan said in the video, I mean, we need to be committed to doing the simple things right, or people can't trust government to do anything else. But it is going to take some time to claw our way back out of this hole. No pun intended.
While we're talking about transportation, utilities, services, and things like that, I seem to remember a story a few months ago about an Amtrak train that may be run from here to Atlanta, here to Nashville. How did that come up? Is it still on the table? And who's your target for that?
Yeah, it's very much on the table, and I'm very proud of that because it started in my office. Early on in the administration, when there was a lot of talk about Amtrak routes and federal money possibly being available, I thought, how crazy is it, having grown up here, that it's a Chattanooga choo-choo and we don't have passenger train service. And, hey, we're right here between Nashville and Atlanta. Could we do it? And my former chief of staff, Joda, really did a lot of work to get together, the legwork. I had to make the final phone calls, to get together the mayor of Nashville, the mayor of Atlanta, the mayor of Savannah. We met at a meeting we were already going to be at in, I don't even remember where we were now, but it doesn't matter. But, and said, don't y'all think this is a great idea? And they said, yes, we do, right? And lo and behold, we spearheaded in the city of Chattanooga the application to get this in front of the FRA to say, should we do this? Can Amtrak said, we think it's a great idea. Believe it or not, there was a lot of skepticism as to whether we could get the state of Tennessee signed on. We've got TASER, which is kind of like the Office of Management and Budget for the state of Tennessee, signed on. We've got both of our Republican senators signed on, endorsing it. So look, it's a great idea objectively, and we're real excited about it, and we think it's going to happen. I just hope I'm alive to see it.
And who's it for? When you're considering this, who's it for?
Well, look, Chattanooga's stock and trade is always going to be our quality of life. We're somewhat landlocked with our geography, and look, if it's a Chattanoogan, look, at this point, again, we haven't talked about air service, and I'm not directly involved at the airport, although I do make all the board appointments, and I've called a few of them about issues in the past year or two. But look, we're not going to catch up with Atlanta or Nashville in terms of air service, and so I think train service to Nashville and Atlanta makes a lot of sense for Chattanoogans who may just want to go to one of those cities for the weekend. I mean, I'm told Broadway's kind of fun in Nashville on a Saturday night. I might have been there a time or two, but and conversely, right? I mean, we do a pretty good tourist business here, and I think people in Nashville, my colleagues in Nashville have sent me a lot of notes saying people in Nashville are real excited about this. And look, it dovetails with the governor's plan to try to decrease congestion on highways, and it's more sustainable, right? I mean, that's one less car on the freeway, so it makes sense in a lot of ways.
Are roads, water, electricity, all the utilities, are they ready for growth in Chattanooga the way that you want to see?
They are. I mean, roads will be. We have, again, I was a big supporter of the governor's investments in roads and highways, and I think that we will get there soon. As far as infrastructure goes, again, we haven't mentioned it yet, but I should never have a meeting like this and not mention how fortunate we are to have EPB and David Wade's leadership, because, folks, that is probably the crown jewel of what makes us a great and competitive city. They are so innovative, they're so forward-thinking, not only in terms of electric service and redundancy and sustainability, but of course in terms of our fiber optic service, which will lead to hopefully a really bright future around quantum computing. And if it weren't for EPB, none of that stuff would happen. So, yeah. Again, it's kind of like, if you're from Tennessee and you're traveling the world, people are either like Elvis, Jack Daniels. But, if you're a mayor of Chattanooga and you go to mayoral conferences, it's EPB. They are all that and a can of corn. They really are.
Yeah. On the same par with Elvis and Jack Daniels.
I'd put them right there.
That's pretty high bar, yeah. To make all this happen, you have a number of great people who work for the city. We saw a few of them on the video. When you were sworn into office, you said you wanted to change the culture. What does that mean? Has that been successful?
Man, I'm glad you asked, because that is, seriously, kudos to Ryan Ewalt and Julia Bursch and that whole team, my COO, because people don't realize we spend, for all the stuff we do externally, we're a bit like the duck, with the legs going furiously beneath the surface. And Ryan and Julia and that team does not get nearly enough credit for the hard work they do to really change the culture inside the city. Again, I'm a reader, not a secret. I'm also a business guy, and I feel like what I bring to the table, being a business guy, has less to do with knowledge about finance and more to do with organizational management, right? So, as a cabinet, last year we read a book called Start With Why. And it was about trying to get people inspired around the One Chattanooga plan, right? Of all the places you could work. And whether you buy into any one element or whether you just believe Chattanooga can be the best city in the country, we want people who are inspired to do the work. And again, so we read that book as a cabinet, and then we met with every city employee in all hands meetings through the course of gosh, it took a long time because we have 2,600 employees. This year, we read Extreme Ownership, which is a pretty extreme book, honestly. It's written by a Navy SEAL. It's pretty intense. The stakes, obviously, in the military are much higher around this concept of ownership because people die if you mismanage a situation. Our circumstances sometimes are that dire, but usually aren't. Not in, like, let's say, Parks and Outdoors. Let's hope. But the principles are the same, right? If you understand your purpose, and your purpose is to really make this the best city in America, then there's really no room to hide when it comes to solutions, right? What we're trying to do is get away from blame and get towards ownership of people saying, we're going to figure this out. We're trying to create a culture of problem solving and become problem solvers. Every month we put up a slide and we look at this in cabinet, and we boiled the One Chattanooga plan's values down into really four main things: serving others with urgency, treating others with dignity and respect, problem solving, and doing the right thing. Things that we all learned in the first grade, but we need to be reminded of occasionally. So it's a very, very, very real initiative, and we spend a lot of time on it. And again, I get asked a lot. You didn't ask, but I'll tell you. I get asked about, what do you want your legacy to be? That. I want to leave, it'll be invisible to most people, but I want to leave behind a city that just works better for Chattanoogans.
Efficient and effective.
Yeah, and just today, again, shout out to Zach Hull and Morgan McCormick, two of our employees from, and again, notably, and I'm going to admit this, I couldn't pick them out of a lineup. I've probably met them, but I'm better with faces and names. But it's an illustration. These are two employees from Parks and Outdoors who got the Coolidge Park fountains not only working, but working better than they've ever worked since they were installed. Yeah, and And you know, it's not because anybody, you know, commanded them to do it or stood over and did it. They did it because they were inspired to do it, right? They could have easily sleptwalked through that exercise and, you know, maybe kind of got them working a little bit. But it's a great example of the sort of ownership and inspiration we're trying to inspire throughout city government. And it warms my heart because it's proof that it's working.
Well, Mayor, I want to thank you for your time and this update. 2.5 years into your term, is it too early to ask, are you planning to seek another term? I should save this for a Channel 3 exclusive, right?
Yeah, you probably should, but I got to ask Jenny, and she hasn't given me an answer yet. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of work to do. Let's put it that way. And I got a lot of other things I could be doing, but I do love the work, and we'll see. We'll answer that question hopefully soon.
Well, you've said a lot about your great team that helps you make this work, and it wouldn't work without what the coaches call the buy-in. And that's not only from the people who work from the city, but also those who work around the city and make some of your plans work. Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor would like to take some time here at the end to recognize some of the folks and the organizations who get behind his plans and help make Chattanooga reach its fullest potential. Mayor?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think I should go to the podium now. Is that what? Yeah, and I just want to say, like, the One Chattanooga plan is not, and it says this in the preamble if anybody bothered to read it, but it's nothing that, I mean, city government can do a fair amount, but we can't change the fundamental trajectory of the city on our own. We have to inspire change more broadly. And so the thing that really warms my heart more than anything is when I can see the values of the plan reflected in the work of people outside the city government who are not doing it because we asked them to do it or directed them to do it, but because they were inspired to do it. So I think we have a video that will...
Realizing the vision of One Chattanooga depends more on what happens outside of City Hall than inside. The One Chattanooga Award recognizes outstanding community partners who've embraced the goals of the One Chattanooga plan. Purpose Point Learning Academy is a development-focused early learning program made possible through partnership with Purpose Point, Mount Canaan Baptist Church, Chattanooga Christian School, and Early Matters Coalition, and a number of other key community organizations. By bringing 180 new early learning seats online, Purpose Point is providing Chattanooga's children with a nurturing, safe, and positive environment, and helping teach the next generation the social, emotional, and practical skills they need for life's success. The Eviction Prevention Initiative is a partnership between the Community Foundation of Greater Chattanooga, the City of Chattanooga, Habitat for Humanity of Greater Chattanooga area, and Legal Aid of East Tennessee. The EPI was created to ensure that as many people as possible in our community who are facing eviction have access to a knowledgeable attorney, a caseworker, and flexibility to help them navigate the eviction process. The EPI partnership has prevented over 200 evictions. That's 200 people who've been given time to get back on their feet again. Youth Community Action Project, or YCAP, is an intervention and prevention initiative working with middle school age kids who are beginning to act out in and out of school. The City of Chattanooga awarded the program $300,000 in American Rescue Plan funds earlier this year, and with that money, they opened a fourth site at the Chris L. Ramsey Community Center in Brainerd. It allows them to serve an additional 75 to 100 kids a year, on top of the hundreds to thousands of kids they have already provided mentorship, tutoring, and most importantly, love to vulnerable kids in the city. These are just three among countless examples of the outstanding contributions being made by private, philanthropic, faith-based, and other community organizations across Chattanooga. All of us have a role to play, and together, we are making the vision of One Chattanooga a reality.
Yeah, let's hear it. And I just want to say there are many others as well. We have some awards, I think, to give out. Yes, come on out, y'all. There they are. You want to go out for that? Let's go. Purpose Point, come on out, y'all. They're not up the stairs yet. Before they get here, let me just say this. There are a lot. We pick 3 to give awards out to, and we will do this, I think, every year that I'm in office. But there are a ton of people, some of who are out in the audience tonight, who have done this work and continue to do this work. And not all of them agree with everything we do. I think, the Chattanooga Urbanist Society, and John's a good example. God bless them for building those benches and for holding us accountable on things like pedestrian safety, because that's what needs to happen. That's how city government should work. And again, I want to encourage everybody to take this to heart. Well, there you go. Okay. How are you, sir?
I'm great, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We're very excited to be here and to support the mayor's One Chattanooga plan. I remember when he was running, and one of his areas of focus was early learning. I've spent over 30 years of my life working with young people. I've buried 105 over a 10-year period. And one of the main things that were a commonality in that is that kids were struggling in school. We all know that if you cannot read by the first, second, or third grade, then there are statistics that show that they are preparing for prisons. And so I am grateful to be here tonight. Thank the city, our mayor, and we're grateful to be here and to receive the first One Chattanooga Award. Thank you.
And we're going to bring out the folks from YCAP.
Lots of people to thank in this room, but obviously the mayor and his staff and the team that are really trying to change this community with our youth. So Mayor, thank you and your team for that. One unspoken person that I hadn't heard his name mentioned, but our city's lucky to have is Dylan Rivera. Really boots on the ground. So thankful for Dylan. And obviously our YCAP staff from our 3 sites that we serve, and Tommy Hobbs, who is a jewel, who many of you know. But what I like to say is, most importantly, I thank the kids. They're awesome, and thank you for your support.
And as a former chairman of the Community Foundation of Greater Chattanooga, I'm going to accept this on their behalf, because I don't think Megan can make it. But again, the Eviction Prevention Initiative has been a really fantastic and groundbreaking program, or frankly, our issues with homelessness would be still worse. So again, thank you to Megan and everybody at the Community Foundation for that. And with that, before I turn this over to Pastor Terry Ladd to give us a benediction, I just want to, again, say thank you all for spending your time, your precious time here with us tonight. Thank you to my lovely wife, Jenny, for supporting me and making this possible. I absolutely couldn't do it. And my family, my son Jack's out there, my in-laws, a lot of friends and family. So thank you all. Again, I've said enough tonight, but I'll just leave you with these thoughts. I want you to be proud to be Chattanoogans. You should be. And again, while it be damned, you should be very, very proud to be citizens of this city. And moreover, I want you to be hopeful, because the future is very, very bright in Chattanooga. If we can accomplish half of what we've laid out here, you can't hit what you don't aim for. We will build the best city in America. So thank you very much. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Ladd for the benediction.
Let us receive the benediction. Let us pray. As we have listened tonight, let us leave following in the footsteps of the one who risked it all to give the vision, the hope of a new heaven and a new earth and a new Chattanooga. May the Eternal continue to call each of us to courage in the midst of our city's challenges. May our city be a place of courageous leadership in a world that longs for their healing wisdom. May we all, citizens, council, clergy, and corporations, have the heart to risk our self-interest in the pursuit of eradicating systems that prefer inequity and perpetuate injustice. May we depart tonight committed to promoting the general welfare and providing for the common good. Grant your blessings upon each of us and keep us safe until we meet again. Let all of us say together, amen.
This concludes our program for tonight. Please join us in the lobby for a reception, and thank you for being a part of One Chattanooga.